So there was a knock at the door while I was trying to show Adam the Woo's DC show, and I know it just posted. That's why I posted that right there. We did not know who it was. We don't know if it's criminal. We live in a place where there has been murder of 2 people, which was not reported to us. We found out by the previous owner. I'm looking for the remote right now because I was distracted. Not the first time. The time is at 11. You can probably see the time when I posted it. You might be able to see the time when I was posting it. It was pretty tricky. Last time it was someone in a dark uniform going like this, standing there going like that. So that's not hard to figure out. That was the last time. It happened to us in Carrollton too. But I'll show you what I was showing. The other day I was giving information about the Pelican brief. It's no big deal to you, but Angel left with the kids 3 years ago. And we're barely financially making it. But if it was who I think it was, you are now removed of duty and you are fired. So I hope it wasn't. I didn't check, but they can find out. A lot of times body cameras are not put on, but you were removed of duty and you were fired. So that's a form of harassment. And if it's church knock on the door, which the church knocks on the door before, I always tell them, we have our own church. Okay, that's what I let the church know, that Angel and I went to a organized religion church, but I run my own church and I'm the pastor of that church. Feel free to give. So because of that distraction, and it's distracting to knock on doors. I used to be a door-to-door salesman. I know it's wrong to do. I lost this and now I found it. And I can go back and show you what I was doing. I know you want absolute visual proof for everything. You want your legal tender, which remember, all money is a form of legality. It's a form of legal tender, right? Which is wrong. It's wrong to kill a man over a $20 bill. It's wrong to kill George Floyd over a counterfeit $20 bill. I worked for a bank for 4 years. We always sent every single counterfeit $25 bill to the Secret Service. You're fired, whoever that was. This is what I was showing right here. And I can fire you because I can complain. They will have an app coming out soon where someone's harassing you regardless of their stand. Regardless of their stand, I have to do that for copyright. Regardless of their stand, regardless of their stature, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it broccoli, regardless of the broccoli they eat. Regardless of anything, okay, you can complain on them. That includes the workforce, that includes law enforcement, that includes the FBI, that includes GBI, Josh Smith, which is called, Josh needs to know this name. GBI is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They're out of Georgia. A lot of people go to Georgia. Georgia went down a devil. Georgia went down to the devil, but also the devil went down to Georgia. Now, this is what I was filming. It's a presidential park, and it shows the map. Okay? That's what I was filming, which is Washington, D.C., which I've been before. Okay? This is showing a photograph right here of Washington, D.C. Sorry, I'm a little hot-headed sometimes. That shows a photograph. That shows this, the lawn, the South, White House, and where Angel and I drove by, which is down here by Lafayette Park. Angel, her maiden name is Angel Curry. But when she became my second wife, before she abandoned, she was known as Angel Spivey, middle name Lee. Her father, Randall, was a con artist out of California. Her mother has charges against her for drugs and for horrible behavior. She can hotwire a car. Boy, that's a good thing to teach your child, isn't hotwire a car? There was identity theft that happened to me in, I believe, Brooklyn. I reported it in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and I reported it in Manhattan, identity theft. 3 different reports in New York City because my Social Security and all my information was taken from me in Brooklyn at a convenience stop. and I had to report that in Brooklyn. I had to report it in the Bronx, and I had to report it in Washington. Well, I had to report it by Washington Square Park. Actually, it's down the way from Washington Square Park, all the way Manhattan. I don't remember where the stop was in Manhattan where I reported it. I reported it in Manhattan because the thief that called me on the phone, he didn't knock on my door, that one did. But whoever called me told me that they had my information. They wanted to verify that I was me. And then I said, well, can I meet you somewhere to pick it up? And then they go, it's my social security number now, BITCH, and then hung up on me. That's what the guy told me. I saw a few black guys walk by the convenience store and went out, and I said, hey, just give me my ID. I'm trying to, you know, show my ID at this school that I'm trying to get into, which is Manhattan. The school was the new school, university. And they said, we don't steal, man. And they walked off. And then I went to the clerk. I said, did you see my wallet right here? And he handed me a $5 bill and said, no, I didn't see it. It's a true story that happened. About 2 weeks later, I ended up moving into Manhattan, and September 11th of 2001 happened. The terrorist attack happened. It's a true story. Boom. You're removed. You are removed. You are fired. So Adam went to the Smithsonian, and that's an elephant. I remembered it as a woolly mammoth, but it's probably an elephant. If he finds a woolly mammoth, then there may be a woolly mammoth in there, but it certainly looks like that would be an elephant. If they changed it from an elephant to a woolly mammoth, but in that exhibit right there, in that Smithsonian, where he's in the Smithsonian, I believe, on the upper floor is the butterfly exhibit, which is a great exhibit. And I got slow-mos of the butterfly, David running around, my son David, and Elizabeth, and my ex-wife, Angel, all running around in the butterfly exhibit. Okay, right here, okay, so he's showing off his ice cream, his little shake thing. We saw that, Angel and I saw that with David and Elizabeth. He's gonna show the monument to the right, which I'm showing right now. I've got it on silent, but I'm gonna show you, there it is. That's the monument. Angel and I, and David and Elizabeth all got a photo. I'll try to insert the photo. I don't do a lot of inserts, but we got a photo right there, and there's David, Elizabeth, and Angel and I in front of that monument right there. It's on my Facebook. All right, 174,170 miles on the speedometer, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. April 10, 2023, and you guessed it, the one and the only Linda Spivey, my wife.
Hi there.
What's
Linda
your name?
Spivey.
Linda Spivey, and I am Cole Spivey. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. Very good. We are headed off. This is a secret little place that we're going today, but we'll tell you all about it whenever we get out. So, enjoy. Later today, we'll be dropping food at your doorstep together in union. Hallelujah. All right, people, there it is, Lake Worth, the one and only. There's a profile of Linda looking at Lake Worth. And in a minute, we're gonna look at the distant boat house. You ever see the movie Godfather 2? It kind of reminds me of that, the old boat house. I don't know if that's what Coppola was thinking about when he did it, but he put it in the movie. So if you ever see Godfather Part 2 from the genius Francis Ford Coppola, my friend Johnny Whitworth worked with Francis Coppola during Rainmaker. He played the cancer patient Rainmaker. Matt Damon was in it too. It's hard to believe. I still don't believe it today, but he did. That was my best friend Danny's brother, Johnny Whitworth. He's basically a movie star in waiting. He should be iconic, and I'm going to try to make him that way by casting him in a little old movie that I'm writing called Escape from Maine, which I wrote a lot of the book in a place called Dover Foxcroft, Maine, where I lived. Also, I lived in Guilford, Maine, and Parkman. when I was coming up with concept. Then I wrote short stories in Parkman when I arrived, and then in Guilford I wrote more poetry, and then I decided to start working on Escape from Maine in Guilford, an apartment over Aunt Dee Dee's, which in the story it's called Aunt Cece's. But that's where I did it. It was started in Guilford, and I moved over to Dover, Foxcroft, and continued writing the book for additional probably 15 months before I left Maine. That was in 2012, 2013. I left in 2013, arrived December 2011. Wow, I arrived there 2011 in December. It turned 2012 because I remember the Mayan calendar changing. Well, the Mayan calendar predicted that the end of the world would happen in 2012 in January because of, I don't know, cultural belief about the constellation and stars. So we were all waiting for the world to end in 2012, and it didn't. So I began the book and finished it into 2013. I polished it up in Fort Worth and worked on it continuously for another 2 years, and I'm still even working on it today. But I am working on the screenplay, and I'm like page 65 or 69. I'm going into page 70. I just wrote another scene with Stephen Warren's Jonah, and that's in the Guilford place, right above Aunt Dee Dee's, which is known as Aunt Cece's in the book and in the screenplay. Now, that screenplay that I was talking about is known as Escape from Maine, based on a book called Escape from Maine, also known as Escape from Me, which is M-E, M.E. Maine's state abbreviation is M-E. So I wrote Escape from Maine, the book, between 2012 to 2013, mostly living in Guilford and Dover Foxcroft. I wrote short stories in Parkman when I first arrived in 2011, right before 2012. That's what I was talking about, the Mayan calendar, because back then they thought the end of the world would be 2012. It was even broadcast on the radio. There's a radio broadcast of it. From there, I wrote short stories. I was thinking about doing a sci-fi thing. I was reading a lot of Kurt Vonnegut when I was in Parkman, Maine. I lived right next door to a man named Bert Chavez. He is the owner of Burt Bees and has passed away. Roxy now owns the company. They started it in a place called Parkman, Maine, which is where I moved into Maine, the state of Maine. Bert Chavez lived down the road, but he used to live in an old schoolhouse right next to the cabin where I wrote those short stories and began thinking about some type of book. Then I got a job at a place called Hardwood Products and decided to write Escape from Maine and change the name of Hardwood Products in the fictional book Escape from Maine to Havenwood Products, which is in the screenplay. My neighbor was not named Stephen, but I called him Stephen in the story, and he would come over with a tumbler and a bathrobe and check up on me. And he also wanted to use my washer and dryer because my unit was the only one that had a washer and dryer. I had a huge apartment. For some reason, it was so big. Once Aunt Dee Dee's pie pantry pulled out because the owner got into some kind of trouble, and there was a weird thing that happened, and he wanted to take cash only for the apartment. It turned out that that owner was a cocaine addict, and he had a lot of problems and couldn't, there was a lot of legal things that he had to deal with. So there was a robbery that happened at Duane Reade, right there next to the post office in Guilford, Maine. And people got afraid to have cash on them. So I told the owner, I said, I cannot pay you cash for rent. Can I pay you money order? And that's when he pulled out, I guess, because of that one thing. He sold the entire property of that building. Bangor's Savings had come knocking on my door to tell me they had bought the property and that I had to basically turn in all payments to Bangor Savings Bank. Stephen, who is not his real name, but worked inside the wood mill with me, which was Hardwood Products. In the story, it's Havenwood Products. He advised me to move away and go somewhere else because the ovens were going to be pulled out of the pie pantry. That meant that we would not be heated, and it gets like below -20 and get like -10 Fahrenheit in Maine.
So we decided, or I decided, and the cats, I was with, well, I had Mojo and Romo from my divorce. I'm sorry, Mojo and Mojo. What did I say? I said Romeo and Mojo. It was Romeo and Mojo that was with me. Well, those were the two cats. Romeo was a tuxedo cat, looked like Edmund. We have a cat named Edmund now. That's a tuxedo. Romeo has passed away, but I had Romeo for almost, since 2005. He passed away 2017. Do the math, 2005, 2017. That's about 10 years, plus 2, like 12 years? About 12 years, roughly 12 years. Romeo and Mojo died roughly about the same time. Mojo died in Maine. He was a black cat. So anyway, we all decided to move, and we found this nice Christian lady named Rita. And she was a really nice lady. She had a beautiful, beautiful nose that looked like kind of like a peacock. I don't know why I say that. Is a peacock nose? What am I thinking? A pelican. Yeah, pelican's kind of nose. I hate to say that. It was a beautiful nose. Kind of like Jennifer Grey's nose. You ever seen Jennifer Grey, the movie star? That's what I remember. I'm just trying to give you a picture of her face. And she had kind of like white, blonde kind of hair. Well, anyway, she was very nice to me. And she said, well, I have a place on High Street which overlooked the Center Theater, also right next to the Masonic Lodge. The Masonic Lodge right there downtown in Dover Foxcroft. It overlooked Dover Foxcroft. So it looked kind of like an attic. So if you ever been upstairs in an attic, it looked kind of like an attic, and it had
Get out of the express lane.
Okay, I'm not in the express lane. It had a washer, but no dryer. But they had a place to wash and dry your clothes right there downtown where Center Theater was, Dover Foxcroft, Maine. They also had a nice little shopping center there too, a grocery store. They had a grocery store as well. So it was a nice kind of, you know, I guess you could say small little town. You could blink if you miss it. They do a whoopie pie festival. So the whoopie pie festival happens once a year, and I think it's in springtime. They sometimes change it. And then they also have what's known as a hot air balloon. It's a hot air balloon, and it's a festival. So they have all these hot air balloons come in, and they do this festival where they launch these hot air balloons in the air, and people are up in the air, and everyone's like waving and stuff. And they also have a place called Peaks Kenny. And Peaks Kenny is where you can go swimming. You can go, in the springtime when you swim, you can go underneath the water. It gets really cold because the ice at the top of the lake will freeze solid, and then it will flip. So the ice at the top will flip, and basically the warm water will go upward to the top surface. So it flips around. So your warm water goes up and your cold water goes down. So when you're swimming, you go down if you go down too deep, it gets freezing cold. It is beautiful. That's Peaks Kenny. They have a thing there called no-see-ums. The no-see-ums are like mosquitoes, but you cannot see them because they're translucent. They will bite you. You will get sick. You'll get a fever. It's called no-see-ums. I wrote another story as I was writing Escape from Maine. All of it's written by my pseudonym Ash Cole. I am Cole Spivey, that person. I am he. I am Ash Cole. I am he. Now, I wrote another story called The Mohan Flower, which is also known as Gone Fishing, about Paul Woodson and his dog Clover. Don't make any phone calls. And there's a ghost wife. The ghost wife visits him because he loses his wife, so his wife comes back to visit him. He goes off to Bar Harbor. There's a young, it's basically like a daughter. Someone's lost daughter. We don't know who it is, a lost girl. She's like 9 years old. Her name is Nicole Miles in the story of Mohan Flower. She's lost, and they're all looking for her, and there's all these people walking around, basically, you know, like hunting for her. You know, it's like a party of people looking for a lost girl. Paul Woodson finds the lost girl outside of Bal Harbor along the road, along the street. It's a 2-lane road that he finds her on. The car is sitting there with the hazards on. He goes and he looks inside. There is Nicole Miles in the back seat, no driver in the front. There in the field running along is what is known as the hefty lady, a lady that is obese. Okay? The other way to say it is obese. The lady's obese and she had stole the daughter and took off with her. There's scenes where he looks for her all over town, in a grocery store and all this stuff, and you get into kind of the head of the daughter a little bit because he sees these lobsters with their claws tied with these blue and yellow tape when he goes into the grocery store to look for her. He finally finds her along the road. She's in the backseat of the car, and the hefty lady has run into the field, has run away. They catch her. She is returned. Nicole Miles is returned to the parents, and Paul Woodson becomes a local hero. That story is known as Mohun Flower, known as Gone Fishing. It's also pronounced Mohun Flower. That word was found on the wall inside Hardwood Products, the word Mohun, M-A-H-O-N. It was written on the wall. It's a product that comes out of China. I've written many books. I've also written Escape from Maine, and I've written Chin. Chin has a character called Catch-22 Lady in it. Catch-22 Lady. And Catch-22 Lady is a very flamboyant lady. It starts off, it's about an English teacher.
I'm sorry,
and he gets assaulted at a Burger King in the chin.
Okay,
he gets assaulted in the chin. He gets assaulted in the chin, in the chin, at a Burger King. It really happened to me when I was working for Uber. I started the book then. I started writing it. It is a novel of 300 plus pages. It is also published on Fiction Press and Fan Fiction. We're gonna deliver food at your doorstep. Read Fan Fiction, Fiction Press. I am Ash Cole, A-S-H-C-O-L-E. Read the books. They're there for you to read. Absolutely free of charge. I hate the boomers.
Sad. Can I give you a call back in about 2 minutes? Or text you? Is this the store number or your personal number, Christina?